out. I love this ride, despite the amount of whiplash it would give me in real life. But what it's missing is the story, and of course, the interior to tell that story. So we've certainly got our work cut out for us today. So I've been giving the story behind this ride some thought, and I'll come up with ways to integrate the storytelling throughout the queue and the ride, and I will of course reveal more as the episode progresses. But to get us started, this is of course a wizard tower, and that means we need a wizard. And I think what I want to do is go over here and put one in this alcove as if he's reading the book down here, just showing him working away in his little library. Now the question is, can I find a wizard skin? That does not really look that much like a wizard. I mean, it looks cool. Not a wizard. Wizards? Oh, no, there we go. Now that is a more traditional wizard. That'll do. So pose, maybe if we switch to that one, and then if we rotate him round so that he's looking at his book. Yeah, perfect. I think that's all it needs. Now this is Warren the Wizard. Now Warren is a good wizard, not as in he's good at magic, but he's a good guy. His heart's in the right place, but he just never quite mastered the magical arts, despite his best efforts. And that's already demonstrated in this room here, as well as, of course, the great big library here next door. Wait a minute, this wasn't here a minute ago. Warren really is a wizard.
You're a wizard.
Warren. But as is usually the case with Warren, the spell went a little bit wrong. And now all the books are constantly switching places and he can never find what he needs when he needs it. Classic Warren. But in all seriousness, this build has just taken me about 2 hours, but I really like how it works. It's basically the same as what we had next door, just on a much larger scale. I've also added in some spore blossoms hidden in the walls as well, so we can get all of these particles, which definitely make it look a little bit more magical. But this room does still need some work, primarily on this bit here, but I think we could also do with a great big statue of Warren. Although he's a friendly wizard, he can be a bit narcissistic. So let's make a giant wizard, maybe? Okay, that's maybe a little bit too big. How about that size? Let's give him a nice pose. And I want to give him a wand of some kind. What can we use for a wand? I mean, there's not many stick-related items, but maybe a blaze rod would look pretty cool. It's bright yellow, I guess. Can't really think of what else might be useful. I don't want to use a normal wooden stick. There we go, looking good. So I guess the next thing I want to do is to sort out this. And while I was grabbing those blaze rods, I have picked up a few other bits and bobs that are going to be quite useful for me, such as some purple dye so I can change the color of the seats. And now I kind of want to make this contraption look good and a little bit more magical. So we're going to start with some amethyst blocks here, then some brewing stands with blaze rods on top, which thanks to supplementaries, we can actually just place on the ground directly, which is quite nice. Then we'll stick more brewing stands on top of these, some iron trapdoors in. We're going to stick some flywheels on the sides. It's already looking so much better. Then for another splash of colour and a bit of light as you're travelling up and down, stick some end rods on here with some gold chains in between. There we go, that looks much better. Now let's just glue it all together. Right, I think that's got everything. So let's just test. I need to quickly set this up again. Put a button, sit here, and hopefully... Yeah, look at that. The floor's looking better as well now. And that should not leave anything behind. Excellent. Hopefully that's going to look quite nice as it goes up as well. Yeah, that looks so much better. Right, well that's this first room done. But what we're going to do now is continue the story of Warren the Wizard by heading right up to the top. And we're going to go into the attic area, which is somewhere where... I cannot say it. Somewhere Warren. Wow, that's actually really difficult to say. But it is somewhere that Warren the Wizard, nailed it, stored another of his failed experiments when he was trying to feed the population giant pumpkins. And once we've sorted out this area here, we'll do the floors that sit in between them. But the first thing I need to do up here is get a little bit of light, because I cannot see what I'm doing. Only needs to be temporary. But before I can crack on with the build up here, I do need to go get myself a few things. Nothing too tricky though, so it should only take me a moment to get what I need. And then we'll be one step closer to finishing this ride. There was me saying it wouldn't be too difficult to get what I need, but I don't think I've even got any pumpkin seeds, let alone pumpkins. Shut up, you. Let's go find some pumpkins. Oh, there you go. That was easy. But I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. So what I'm actually going to do is plant a bunch of these. Unless I can see any more laying around. Nope, it appears that's all there was in this part of the island. Not to worry, let's just quickly go over here and make a quick little temporary farm. We can use bone meal to get more when we need them. So I'm just going to bone meal these stalks here. Sadly, we can't boost them all the way to actually produce pumpkins, but this will certainly give it a kickstart. Looking good. And while we wait for the pumpkins to grow, I'm just going to put myself somewhere safe because I haven't slept for days and I don't want the phantoms to get me. And I'm going to go get myself a lovely cup of tea while you can watch these grow. There we go. This should be more than enough pumpkins. And we'll just leave all the stalks here so that they can produce more should we need any more. But I reckon we'll be fine. Now, first up, we're just going to get a floor in here. And we're going to use these copycat slabs because that way, on the top level, I can then do this because I want to create a kind of void type room up here. So we're going to be coating the walls in black concrete as well. But while we get this floor in, I'm probably going to get in a couple more floors as well, just while we're sorting this out, because then that's going to give me a better idea of how it's all going to work. Although it does occur to me, I'm also going to need to leave leg space again. So to get that to work, we're going to need to use some bite blocks. So we can do this. And that'll leave half a block clearance for legs. That's this floor done. We'll sort out the walls and stuff in a minute. But let's quickly get a couple more floors in first. And fix this one as well, because this one, currently, will take people's legs off. Glad I realised this now after going on about legroom so much last episode. The floors are in and fairly narrow, but I'm sure we'll figure out something to do with them. Now I want to sort out this room here. And I think while we do this, I'm just going to turn my brightness up to max. That way you and I can both see a whole lot better. So I want to black out the walls first of all. I don't know if I want to black out the windows or not yet. I think I am going to keep the windows because then what I can do is actually replace this inside window frame bit here. So just get rid of all this diorite. Block up those bits, and then that just means we've got a bit more space on the inside, as opposed to this one, which only leaves us with, what, a block and a bit? We want a bit more than that. I'd say apart from the ceiling, that's looking quite voidy right now. Whoa, wait a minute. I'm dressed like a lab rat. One moment. There's a perfectly logical explanation for that. You see, and that's why I was dressed as a lab rat. So, what we need to do is figure out how we're going to do something up the top here. So, I want to do something fancy with Create. I want to have some moving stuff. And I think the first thing I should do is probably get the chair right to the top here, so we can see exactly what we're working with. Now, easiest way to do that is going to be to start the ride, wait for it to get all the way to the top. Look at that, legroom all the way up. And then break it. And now it should just stay there. Perfect. I would have been very surprised if that had moved then. Now, there is actually a way to get all the way to the top of the tower, so we're going to make use of these ladders here and see what we're working with at the top here. So, well, first off, we can lower the top of this by a block, so let's go do that first. Jeez, all the way back down again. There we go. Now it's in the right place. Perfect. Legroom. So first question, how much space do we have at the top here? So if I want to have moving stuff, this is where I'm going to have to hide the create mechanisms for it. So basically, we've got 3 blocks there. That is not a lot of space to work with. But hopefully I'll be able to work something out up here. So I'm just going to have a little play around, see what we can do. And hopefully when I bring you back, this is going to look a whole lot better than just a weird black box with a purple ceiling. And there may be a pumpkin or two. I decided on a windmill bearing at the top in the end to provide movement inside, and then use some clear glass as arms I could then attach pumpkins to. They looked a bit boring though, so I gave them a variety of faces, and now they look much more creepy. I filled in the ceiling with more black concrete to hide the mechanism, decorated the room with more pumpkin varieties, and some candles for light, and then I added a few cave spider plushies and cobwebs for variation. And I'd say that's not come out too badly. When you come up here and you're sitting on the seat, you'll see the stuff spinning around you, all the weird faces, some less creepy than others, clearly. But I think this should do the job nicely. So with that done, let's get the ride turned back on and get the seat out of the way. Means we need to run the whole thing again. And there we go, we can get a slightly better look at the room now without the chairs in. Not that it'll ever really be seen like this, but I think it works nicely. But the story needs to change slightly. It turns out he wasn't making giant pumpkins for the villagers after all. He was actually trying to make sentient pumpkins to help him around the library before he found the tiny blaze guys. So this is where he brought the pumpkins to life and then decided to leave them when it turns out they weren't very efficient and they were a little bit silly. Now, next up, I need to get some stuff on this floor and the floor above, but there's really not a lot of space here. So I think this is going to be the kind of like sleeping, living quarters. Maybe we'll get like a couple of desks, beds, things like that. Maybe even a brewing stand or two. And up here, I have absolutely no idea. Wish me luck. And I think something like this should do nicely. I've tried to make use of the space as much as possible. So we've got an area here where the nether wart is grown, and then we've got sort of research type areas as well. A little bit of an extension on the library, I guess, to a point, but these are the books he's actually currently using. We've also got a little brewing station over here with the mushrooms and other things that he might want to use. And as we go up to the next floor, we've got a little bit of a bedroom going on. Once again, a few more books and so on. But he's a wizard, he loves books, okay? Even if he's not very good at doing the things they tell him to do. And then we've just got a little bit of storage over the other side and a small seating area. But I think as a whole, this is looking pretty good. But speaking of holes, we've still got one more big area where we really do need to do a lot of work. And that is, of course, down here underground. Wait a minute. That's gone down a little bit too far. Probably because I made the top 1 block shorter. Right, let's go sort that out. So this last one needs to come down 1 meter less. Let's just get that reset, and that should go straight down. Wonderful. Right. What are we going to do about this bit down here? Following the last episode, we've had lots of awesome suggestions of what we can actually do down there. And I think I'm going to try something. Something I've not done before, and I don't know if it's going to work, but if it does, it should look quite cool. So if we go down here and have a look, one thing I'm definitely going to need to do is make a bit more space in the... Ow! There was no need for that. But I do need to make a bit more space in the walls down here. Because I am going to have it as a bit of a dungeon. We're going to have some sort of weird creatures, maybe a few sort of like automaton type things that he's been working on. And once again, just haven't gone quite right. So they all live down here. But the main thing I want to try and do is to make an animatronic dragon. Or at least a dragon head. So I think it would be awesome if we had some kind of dragon head sort of sticking out of the wall, and then when the ride comes down, it actually sort of moves, maybe a little bit left and right, maybe it comes forward a little bit. I don't really know. Kind of depends what we can actually do and make look good. Before I can do anything though, I'm gonna need a whole lot more space down here. So let's get digging. Done. Now we have a massive cave and a lot more space to work with. And I've also done this tunnel here, and I've put a bit of an optical illusion in it so that at the top there, you'll see that the blocks are sort of in chunks of 2, and they go down to 1, and then they can just go down to half slabs. Or slabs, I should say. And because it's really close to the ride as well, as you're going down there, it feels a lot faster than it actually is. And then it opens up down the bottom. I will demonstrate that later once we've actually sorted out this bit. I mean, it could do with being a bit longer, but it works as a subtle effect. But more importantly, we've now got lots of space down here, so I can sort out this animatronic dragon, or at least try to. And we're also going to be switching up the sequence on the ride a little bit so that the ride actually finishes down the bottom here, because then that will give people a lot more time to actually explore this bit and then head back up to the surface. With that in mind, I think what I'm going to do is build a giant dragon head maybe around here somewhere, and then we'll just fade the back of the cave into darkness. So we'll have to get a bit clever with some black concrete and glass, I think, later on. But for now, let's try and build a giant dragon's head. I've been staring at this for about 10 minutes now, and I can't really work it out. So I'm going to jump into creative and then blast one into existence in here using a schematic cannon. I'd say that came out okay in the end. I mean, I'm not the best at organics, but for a dragon head, I think that kind of works. And once we get all the glass in, we'll probably start the glass layers around here somewhere and have that going back. It should sort of sink into the darkness. At least that's the hope. But before we do that, we need to add some movement to this. It's not going to be an animatronic head if it's not actually moving anywhere. And I think we're just going to add a little bit of movement to this, nothing too extreme. Maybe just the head sort of moving from side to side now and then. And thinking of the darkness, if I just turn this down for a moment... So that's what we're currently dealing with. It does look pretty dark. So the first thing we're going to do is run a little test with a mechanical bearing. And we'll use some glass panes to connect it, just because they're basically invisible. Get those attached. Set this to only place when the anchor is destroyed. And then if we attach this, let's turn this right the way down to like 5 degrees. And give it a little turn. That seems to be okay. Now let's turn it 40 degrees. And then have a quick check in FreeCam just to see if we've left any blocks behind. Yep, we've left a bit of the chin back there. Other than that, though, I think we got everything. Let's just get that back to where it started. Set that to place. And all of his teeth have popped off. Oh, that's not helpful. So this is the bit we left behind. So let's get that attached. And now we should be good. Okay, so I want to work out a sequence for this. Means, of course, I need a sequence gear shift. Then I just need to give this thing some power, but we don't want it to be going too fast. In fact, I'm going to make it as slow as I possibly can. So we'll start with a gearbox, cog, speed controller, set that down to 1, and then we just need a water wheel. And once again, I don't have any water with me, but lava will do the trick. Alrighty, now to test this out. Oh, that's not going to plan at all. For a start, that should only place when destroyed. Let's reattach his teeth again. I don't know why these ones keep breaking. Every time it kind of sets back in place. That's really weird. And it went really fast because I've set this up completely wrong. And let's just grab my lava, grab the water wheel, and actually attach that onto this bottom bit. That's where it's going to be effective. Right, now it should be going very slow. Yeah, look at that. Much better. And that is set to only place when destroyed. Okay, let's give that another go. That should be moving much slower. Yeah, look at that. get some sound effects on that as well. That'd be very cool. But before we do that, let's just get a little timing system in here. Means I need some pulse extenders. Nope, pulse repeaters. We made this mistake last time. And we'll have that fire off every, say, 10 seconds. And then every time it fires, we'll just charge that back into it again. So that should just loop round and round once I power it on. So if I do that, and that should power. Yep, there we go. Now it's starting another charge. That might be too quick, actually. Let's do it every 25 seconds. Gives me plenty of time to break out of this hole. Yeah, that's looking cool. Look at that. An animatronic dragon head. Then in about 10 seconds, that should fire again. Yeah, look at that go. Excellent. So now we've got the head moving and doing its thing and looking pretty good. I want to try and add a sound effect down here. And that is where this comes in, the water frame. So we're going to put a link to an audio file in there. We're going to make sure it works. In fact, I think I actually need to put it on the side of that block there so that it gets powered by the redstone. Now let's see what happens. Excellent, it's playing the sound. Right, so it looks like I need to adjust this ever so slightly because it's not quite triggering how I would like it to. So I'm going to have a little play around and see if I can work this out. A short while and a lot of messing around later, and I've got it working, kind of. I didn't manage to get it working exactly how I wanted, but we have got some sound effects. However, I did discover a bit of an issue with the water frames. So let me give you a little example here. If I put in a sound effect, you can see that plays, and I can pause it, I can stop it, I can set it to loop, which is great for background music because it means I can just, you know, put it in, set it to loop, let it go, and it can just loop round and round forever. The problem comes when I want to trigger a sound effect, and I'll show you what I mean. So if I set this to play, then what I can do is I can power this with redstone, and when powered, it will pause the sound. As soon as the redstone signal goes off again, it will continue playing. But the problem is, that uses the pause function, not the stop function, which on the surface doesn't seem like a big issue, but it kind of is. Because what that means is if I've got a sound effect that, for example, is 10 seconds long, and I've got that set to loop, then after 10 seconds, I need to power this with a redstone signal to stop it from playing. And then I can trigger that with the ride again, so that when it needs to, it will start playing again, and so on, and it will just loop round and round and round. But even if I get my timings exactly perfect on that, it still gradually goes out of sync, which is very annoying and not what we want at all, because then we end up with a pause in the middle of the sound effect. So you'd think the solution would be to turn the loop off, and then every time it gets powered, it will play the sound effect. But sadly, it just doesn't work like that because it uses the pause feature and not the stop feature. And if I don't have it set to loop, even if the sound effect plays all the way to the end and then gets powered by redstone, it doesn't start again, which is really weird and, to be honest, quite annoying. I don't know why it works like that, but what it means is I can't actually use these for triggering one-off sound effects. It works great for music because I can just leave it playing and general background noise, but yeah, individual sound effects, not so good. So what I've done with this is I've just created a loop track here, which is 55 seconds long. It has a bit of sort of basement background noise, and it has a few various dragon sounds. I'm trapped inside his head right now. And it has a few various dragon sounds that just kind of play, and they're not perfectly synced up to this, but at least it doesn't randomly cut out in the middle of a sound effect. So in the long run, I think what that means is water frames. Yep, I can use water frames, but I can only really use them for looping sound effects, which is fine because if you remember from earlier in the series, we were having trouble with the amount of mood sounds that were playing. In fact, you can still see it's playing 8 out of 8 at the moment. That's probably because I'm near the log flume and I've not switched out those sound boxes yet. But it means if I want to trigger sound effects when certain things happen, I'm still going to have to use a different mod to water frames. But at least all my looping sound effects and looping music won't be taking up my mood slots once I actually finally get around to swapping out all the ones over at the log flume anyway. But I still think it's come out well. We've got the sort of general background drone. If I turn off my music, you should be able to hear that. Just a nice subtle background effect, and then occasionally we have grumbles and roars from the dragon. But it's still very cool, and I still love it. And I love the way the smoke sort of trails as his head turns as well. It's the little things. What I want to do now, though, is get this integrated into the cave a little bit more. So the first thing I'm going to need to do for that is to get some more terracotta and just put in a little bit of a body, which is going to end up getting pretty much sort of buried in the back of the cave anyway. But I think it'd be good to have just a bit of flash of color here. And then to create the darkness effect, what I'm going to do is stick some black concrete just on this back wall here. And now I need to go get myself a whole bunch of black glass, and we're just going to sort of layer it up at the front here, and hopefully that'll give it a nice sort of darkness effect. Got some glass, but I've also picked up some more darker blocks here, just so we can transition back into the stone blocks on the sides here. It should help it look a little bit better. hopefully. Right, not a bad start. Now let's do the glass effect, and hopefully that's going to finish it off nicely. So we're going to leave an air gap, and I'm sure you've seen this effect done many times before, but what we're going to do is we're going to put layered glass in like that, then we're going to leave another air gap, and then put in another row of glass, and we're just going to keep doing that, leaving an air gap, and then putting in a line of glass until it looks good, really. That's the general plan. I'm hoping to get at least another couple of layers in. Right, I think I'm done with the glass that we needed to get placed. If we stand back and take a quick look, yeah, that's looking much better. Just gives a good sense of depth. And if we actually set this to proper lighting situations, because we're currently turned up for brightness, yeah, look at that. Beautiful. But although we've got our dragon in now, I've still got the rest of the cave to do, which is going to be a whole lot of stuff. We're going to have some other create bits and bobs going around, some other moving things as well, which we'll get to a bit later. And I want to do something clever with the ride-off loading system. But first, I need to just make this area look good. You know, get some more failed experiments in and things like that. Texture the walls, maybe add some more sound effects, and so on. Cue the time lapse. I messed up. At that point in the time lapse, I went to go make myself a cup of tea and actually forgot to hit record on the way back. Which means we're missing a good few hours of progress from the time lapse, which is very annoying. But in good news, we do now have an exit. I'll just quickly show you where this comes out first. So this will actually spit people out on the bottom of the cliff edge here. So we will have another path that goes and connects over to that side, which was always on the to-do list anyway. But I think this is going to be a much better exit than the one we had at the top there. And it's also going to give us a bit more space in the bottom. But if we just go down into our dungeon now, I have made progress. It's still got some work to do, but it's looking pretty good so far. So over here, we've got a bunch of ogres working on some automatons, which are these creepy looking things here that the wizard's been making. In fact, he's got whole lines of them ready to go. They're all being checked off as well. No idea what he's going to use them for yet, but it's a little bit concerning that he has them in the first place, considering his previous experiments. We also then have a small sort of research area here where the blazes are working away, trying to discover new potions and things like that. And then over here, we've got some cages, which are currently empty, but we are about to go on an adventure and fill some of these up. And essentially, this area is where we're going to be storing all the food for the dragon. I mean, the dragon's got to eat, right? But the good thing is that'll also add some ambient sounds into the area as well. We'll have a bit of a menagerie over here. Menagerie? Menagerie? I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. We'll have a bunch of animals, all right? The actual drop ride itself, as I say, it will be finishing down here now. So on the turn when it's going to finish down here, it will sit for 20 seconds or so, and we'll automate these so all the gates open once it hits the bottom as well. And then over here, we've been working on the dragon pen. I've only done this side. I haven't done the other side yet, but we've got like a little bit here where you can get a little bit of water and whatnot. There's even fish in there now, apparently. But it's nice and dark over there, so I haven't gone into too much detail. I've just added a few bits here and there. And there is something I want to add to the bottom here. I think it'll be really good to have some bones. And although we do have these sort of bones and things like this, we have these fossils, I need to go out and find them. I don't actually think they're things that we can make. And I'm not entirely sure how to get those fossils, but my theory is if we go on a little mission, go for a search, we might find one of these sort of dig sites, because we do have the better archaeology mod on here. That's where they come from. And I'm assuming that we just kind of make a brush and dig them up. I really don't know. But when we go on our adventure to collect loads of animals in these cages, we'll also see if we can find some sort of bony type things. If not, then we do have bone blocks and copycat panels. I'm sure we can put some down there one way or another. But this is where we're at so far. And yep, it's looking good. The sound effects are awesome. They've been going on the whole time that I've been down here, and to be honest, it's quite atmospheric. I like it. You're doing well, dragon. So before we finish decorating the rest of this cave, I do need a break from it. So yeah, we're going to go see what animals we can fit inside these cages, and we're going to make ourselves an archaeology brush as well. Oh, we might even treat ourselves to a diamond one. Hello, what's this? that was a thoroughly exciting trip. We actually managed to find a few of the sort of ancient abandoned archaeology type builds, although they were all the jungle temple ones and of course some underwater ones as well. But we have managed to get ourselves a variety of bones, which is pretty good. We'll get these down in the dragon pit momentarily. But not only that, we've also got a bunch of animals. We've even got some cool vases, and I've managed to get one sniffer egg. So we'll definitely get him over in the animal pen. Animal-wise though, I could only get very small animals in here, so it's just snails and birds. Not quite what I was hoping for. So that means I'm also just going to go out with some leads and bring some sheep or something down here, and we'll put them in the pen with the sniffer. I mean, the dragon's going to need more than just tapas. Let's get this build finished. I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is we are now finished. I even managed to slaughter some phantoms. So we've got lots of phantoms flying around the top of the tower here, which I think looks absolutely awesome, especially when you look at it from a distance. If we come all the way over here to where the entrance is, that just looks cool. I've also got the exit path in. The rest of the dungeon's finished as well. We'll go take a look at that in a moment. But you may notice there is no sound. And that's because, as good as water frames are, they do actually have a negative impact on my frame rate. Quite a large impact, in fact. So what I've done is I've actually rigged up all the water frames with redstone that lets me pause them. And I've got this handy switch here which will allow me to turn the sounds, like this, right back on again. And it really does add to the atmosphere having the sounds, but as you may see, it's getting a little bit framey. So if we turn those off again, if I press F3, you can see when I'm here, I'm getting a reasonable amount of frames, you know, that's pretty good. But as soon as I turn the music on, look at that, we lose over 100 frames per second, which is madness, which means we have a bit of a decision to make. It's either have the immersion of all the sound effects, or it's to have our frames. So basically, I'm just not having any luck whatsoever with my custom sounds. However, a solution is potentially on the horizon, and that is to update this world to 1.21, which of course at the moment is just not possible because Create isn't on that version yet, but as soon as it is, and as soon as the other mods are available that I use, which hopefully they'll all get updated as well, then we could potentially just use the new custom music feature that's actually baked into Minecraft now. Although I don't know if that's still going to lead to the same mood sound limit problem that I'm having now. I did find a mod that increases the mood sound limit from 8 to 128, but it's a fabric mod and we're on Forge. So yeah, I'm just not having much luck at all. But anyway, I think it's high time I give you a full tour of this ride, which means we are going to turn on the sound, so it might be a little bit framey in places, but at least you'll get the full immersive experience. One thing remains though, we do still need a name for this ride. We've got the entrance all sorted out here. Warren's hanging out as well, and I really do quite like that ride entrance, but yeah, we do need a ride name. So let me know your ideas in the comments and we'll try and get one on next episode. But anyway, on with the tour. Let's go for the full experience. So we start off just by going around the queue line here, and of course that just leads through into the sort of storage area, I guess, for the wizards. And then we go round, we go up the stairs here, and all of this will be the queue line, and then we go into the first bit of the library, just the sort of little side one, and we can see Warren working away over there. This then continues to loop round. We've got some other small details, just candelabras and books and cobwebs and even the little worker dudes. And then as we go through to here, the music fades away for the queue line, and basically we just got to wait here now for these gates to open, because that'll let us know the ride is ready to load. And there we go, now it's our turn to get on the ride, so let's just jump in here. Hey Warren, and this is the best seat to sit on, because it's the one that actually faces the dragon when you go down. It should set off any second now, because it is on a loop timer. Oh, there we go. So we go through the library at first, and then we've just got a couple of floors here, which it does feel like we're going a bit faster now because everything's a little bit closer. And then, of course, the floaty pumpkins. And then we drop, go all the way down to the bottom, and that's the optical illusion bit there as well. There's the dragon looking awesome. And, of course, we've got other bits going on down here as well. Then we go back up to the top again, and this is going full speed at the moment, so it's kind of shooting us back up to the top. And then we're here ever so briefly, and then we drop all the way back down to the bottom again, bounce a little bit. In fact, yep, that's not the one where it goes all the way to the bottom. This is where it goes all the way to the bottom. And at this point, the gates at the bottom should open for us. Yeah, look at that. And this is where we exit the ride. So now you can explore the full experience of the dungeon. We've got all of our bones in down the bottom. The sound effects are awesome. Our sniffer's all grown up as well, so we've got our dragon's food ready. And I just absolutely love the atmosphere of this place. And then over this way, we've got our exit, which leads us back out into the woods. So that was the full experience, but as I say, it's a little bit framey at the moment when you've actually got all the sounds on, which is really annoying. I just don't know what to do about it at the moment, so please let me know in the comments if you've got any ideas, because yeah, Water Frames was the last big idea because it doesn't use mood sounds, but it just steals all my frames. Not ideal. Despite the sound issues though, I'm very pleased with how the ride has actually come out. I think it looks awesome, and I do like the fact that it now sort of disembarks at the bottom as well, that not on this round, it'll actually do it on the next run. But all these gates are set to automatically open when it's time to disembark, and these ones here close while the ride's in motion, you know, safety first and all that. And I know what you're wondering. You're thinking, wait a minute, Biddy, didn't you build this to have a phantom farm in it? And, well, I did, but I ran into a bit of an issue where there was no way I could really get the phantom farm in the roof without it actually completely destroying the rates of phantom membrane we were getting. So in the end, this has just turned into a glorified phantom farm platform. So I've just got a barrel here where I store it, and I can put it on this rail and it goes on the center of the tower. And yeah, that's how I'm using my phantom farm. Don't judge me. But sadly, that is all we've got time for today. I hope you've enjoyed it though. I think that tower's looking absolutely awesome, despite the fact that, yeah, we kind of bailed out on the phantom farm part of it just a little bit. And if you want to ride this yourself, as well as all the other rides we've got in our park, the latest world download is now available for all patrons and YouTube members of any level. And I'll leave the remote control for the sounds in here. I don't know if they'd work for you anyway, because of the way that it all kind of links up and so on. But, you know, if you want to give it a go, then please do. Bye-bye now.